The package arrived on a Tuesday morning, right after I'd finished my first cup of coffee. I remember because I was still in my ratty old bathrobe, the one Ethan always teased me about keeping. The delivery guy looked apologetic as he struggled with the oversized box. "Sorry to bother you so early, Mrs. Monroe. Another baby supply delivery." I blinked at him. "Another?" "Yeah, like the ones I usually take to." He checked his tablet, then stopped himself. "Oh, sorry. Different address. My mistake. My name is Mallory, though most people call me Mally." I'd been married to Ethan for just over a year, and we definitely weren't expecting any babies. I signed for the package anyway, dragging it inside our modern downtown apartment that still smelled like the French toast Ethan had made before heading to his restaurant. The box was addressed to Ethan, but there was a note attached with my name on it. His familiar scrawl read, "Mally, please hold on to these for the charity drive next month. Love you." I stood there, coffee getting cold in my favorite mug, staring at that note. Ethan was always involved in some charitable cause through his restaurant, feeding the homeless, holiday toy drives, that sort of thing. But something about this felt off. Maybe it was the delivery guy's slip-up, or maybe it was the way Ethan hadn't mentioned anything about a charity drive over breakfast. I called the restaurant, but Marcus, his sous chef, said he was in a supplier meeting. Typical Tuesday morning stuff. Everything normal. Except it wasn't. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Got the delivery?" "Yes," I typed back. "Didn't know we were doing a charity drive." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. "Sorry, meant to tell you. One of our regular families is struggling. Trying to help out." I looked at the box again. The tape was loose on one corner, practically begging to be peeled back. Inside, I found premium diapers, organic baby formula, and tiny clothes with the tags still on. This wasn't the kind of stuff you'd typically donate to struggling families. My fingers hovered over the phone keyboard. I could ask more questions. Should ask more questions. Instead, I wrote, "That's sweet of you. We'll talk about it tonight? Swamped today. Might be late. Don't wait up." I sat down hard on our gray leather couch, the one we'd spent 3 weekends picking out, and stared at the box. That nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. The delivery guy's words kept echoing in my head, like the ones I usually take to. To where? And to whom? I needed someone to tell me I was being paranoid, so I called Jenna. We met at our usual spot, a quiet coffee shop 3 blocks from my office. She was already there, watching me with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. "You look like hell," she said, sliding a latte toward me. "Thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear." I dropped into the chair across from her, my hands shaking slightly as I pulled out my phone. "Look at this." I showed her the texts from Ethan, then explained about the package and the delivery guy's slip-up. With each detail, Jenna's expression grew darker. "Have you checked your bank statements?" she asked. "What? Why would I?" "Because charitable donations leave a paper trail." She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Remember when I told you something felt off about him working late all those nights?" My stomach clenched. Last month, Jenna had mentioned seeing Ethan's car parked outside a residential area, nowhere near his restaurant. I dismissed it, convinced she was being overprotective. "He's running a successful restaurant," I said, but my voice sounded hollow even to me. "Of course he works late." Jenna pulled out her tablet. "Log into your account. Now." I did. The screen loaded, showing our joint checking account. Everything looked normal until Jenna pointed to a series of withdrawals, all made on Tuesday mornings, all for similar amounts. $2,000, every week, like clockwork, she said. "That's not restaurant supplies, Mally. He could be paying vendors." But even as I said it, I remembered how Ethan had insisted on handling all the finances. How he'd always have an explanation ready when I asked about expenses. My phone buzzed. Another text from Ethan, working late again. Don't forget to move that package to the storage room. Jenna read the message over my shoulder. You know what you need to do, right? I did. The thought made me sick, but I nodded. I need to follow him. No, Jenna said firmly. First, you need to document everything. Bank statements, texts, that package, photograph it all. Then we follow him. We? You really think I'm letting you do this alone? She squeezed my hand. Whatever we find together. I stared at my phone, at Ethan's message glowing on the screen. The man who made me French toast this morning, who kissed me goodbye and said he loved me, was becoming a stranger with every passing hour. Tomorrow, I said. He always leaves early on Wednesdays. Jenna nodded, already making plans. But all I could think about was that package, sitting in our storage room like a ticking bomb, waiting to blow my life apart. Jenna's car smelled like coffee and anxiety as we followed Ethan's black Range Rover through Wednesday morning traffic. He wasn't heading to the restaurant. Instead, he wound through unfamiliar streets until the high-rises gave way to tree-lined suburban roads. Slow down, I whispered, though Jenna was already hanging back. He's turning. Ethan's car pulled into a driveway of a pale yellow house with white trim. The kind of house I'd always imagined raising a family in. My hands clenched into fists as a woman opened the front door. Mally. Jenna's voice was gentle. Park here, I said. We were far enough away to stay hidden, close enough to see everything. The woman hugged Ethan. She was pretty, with long dark hair and a flowing sundress. But what made my heart stop was the baby on her hip. That's why he needed the diapers, I heard myself say. The words felt like glass in my throat. Ethan took the baby, lifting him high in the air. The child's laughter carried across the quiet street. I'd never seen Ethan smile like that, so unguarded, so complete. We should go, Jenna said. We've seen enough. No. I opened the car door. I need to know everything. Mally, wait. But I was already walking toward the house, my heels clicking against the sidewalk. Each step felt like moving through water. Ethan's back was to me as he bounced the baby, but the woman saw me first. Her smile vanished. Ethan, she said softly. He turned. The baby gurgled, reaching for his face, but Ethan had gone completely still. The color drained from his face as our eyes met. Mally, he breathed. I can explain. How old? My voice didn't sound like my own. The woman stepped forward, taking the baby from Ethan's arms. He's 14 months, she said. His name is Oliver. 14 months. I did the math in my head. We'd been married for 13 months. The engagement party, where Ethan had disappeared for hours, claiming food poisoning. It all made horrible sense. Lily, take Oliver inside, Ethan said. Lily. The woman had a name. The baby had a name. This whole secret life had names and birthdays and morning routines I knew nothing about. Were you ever going to tell me? I asked. But I already knew the answer. The weekly withdrawals, the late nights, the careful lies, he'd built a perfect system to keep his world separate. Ethan reached for me. Please, let's talk about this somewhere private. I stepped back, nearly stumbling. Private? Like your private family? Your private son? Behind me, I heard Jenna's car door slam. But all I could see was Oliver's tiny hand waving over Lily's shoulder as she carried him inside, taking my future with her. I think we should all talk inside, Lily said, returning to the doorway. Her voice was steady, almost kind. That kindness hurt worse than any anger could have. Jenna touched my arm. I'll be right here if you need me. The house was everything our downtown apartment wasn't: warm, lived in, with toys scattered across the floor and family photos on the walls. I stopped dead when I saw one of Ethan holding newborn Oliver in the hospital. He was wearing the same shirt he'd worn to our rehearsal dinner. "I was going to tell you," Ethan started. "When?" I picked up the photo. "After our anniversary dinner last month? Or maybe during that weekend trip you canceled because of a supplier emergency?" Lily moved to the kitchen, returning with a manila envelope. "He was going to tell you after this came through." She handed it to Ethan, who looked like he might be sick. "What is it?" I asked. "Custody papers," Lily answered when Ethan couldn't. "We've been working with a lawyer to formalize everything. The support payments, visitation schedules." My laugh sounded hysterical even to my own ears. "Support payments? Is that what you call stealing from our joint account?" It wasn't stealing, Ethan finally found his voice. "Oliver is my son. I have responsibilities." "And what about your responsibility to me?" The photo frame cracked in my grip. "What about all those nights I waited up, thinking you were building our future, when really you were here, playing house with your other family?" "It's not like that," Lily said softly. "We never meant." "Stop." I set down the broken frame. "Just stop being nice to me. Please." Oliver's cry pierced the tension. Lily disappeared upstairs, leaving me alone with the stranger I'd married. "I love you, Mally," Ethan said, reaching for me. "This doesn't change that." I stepped back. "Actually, it changes everything. Because now I understand all of it, the separate bank account you insisted on, the weird work hours. Why you never wanted to talk about having kids of our own." My voice cracked. "You already had the family you wanted." "That's not true. I want both." "Both?" The word tasted like poison. "You want to keep your perfect wife in the city and your secret family in the suburbs? How long did you think you could keep this up?" Upstairs, Oliver's cries grew louder. Ethan's eyes darted toward the sound, his body instinctively turning away from me. That small movement said everything. "I want a divorce," I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. "And I want every penny you took from our account." "Mally, please. You can keep your perfect little house and your secret family. But you're going to pay for every lie you told me. Every single one." 3 days after discovering Ethan's secret family, I found myself sitting in divorce lawyer Sarah Chen's office. Surrounded by financial records and screenshots of text messages. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I handed her the photos I'd taken of the baby supplies and bank statements. "The withdrawal started 2 months before our wedding," I said. "I checked everything." Sarah nodded, making notes. "And you're certain about pursuing financial restitution rather than just a clean break?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Another message from Ethan: "Please come home. We can work this out." I turned the phone face down. Home. What a joke. I'd been staying at Jenna's, sleeping on her couch while she helped me pack up my life into cardboard boxes. "Miss Jensen?" Sarah prompted. "He needs to pay," I said, then caught myself. "I mean, he needs to return what he took." "Of course." Sarah's expression remained neutral, but I saw the concern in her eyes. "Just remember, revenge can be expensive. Emotionally and financially." My phone buzzed again. This time it was Lily. "We should talk. Just us." The audacity of it made me laugh, a sharp sound that startled even me. "Did you know," I said to Sarah, "that they were planning to formalize their custody arrangement? While I was picking out new curtains for our apartment, they were meeting with lawyers. Focus on what you want from this, not what they did." Sarah leaned forward. "Because right now, you're letting them live rent-free in your head." I want." I stopped, realizing I hadn't actually thought beyond making Ethan hurt like I was hurting. My phone lit up again. A photo this time, accidentally sent to our shared family album. Oliver in the kitchen of that yellow house, covered in pancake batter. Ethan's hand visible in the frame, reaching to clean the baby's face. Something inside me cracked. "I want everything," I said, my voice steady despite the tears starting to fall. "The apartment, half his restaurant shares, and every penny he spent on them. I want him to feel what it's like to lose everything you thought was yours." Sarah set down her pen. "That's anger talking. Let's focus on what's legally achievable." "No." I stood up, gathering my papers. "Find a way. That's what I'm paying you for." "Mallory, wait." But I was already walking out, my heels clicking against the marble floor like bullets. In my car, I finally looked at Lily's full message. "There are things about Ethan you need to know. Things that might change everything." I started the engine, my decision made. If Lily wanted to talk, fine. But this time, I'd be the one setting the terms. I agreed to meet Ethan at our apartment, what used to be our apartment. The place felt smaller somehow, filled with half-packed boxes and memories I couldn't shake. He sat at our kitchen island, where we used to share morning coffee, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "You're selling the restaurant?" His voice cracked. "My lawyer just called." I poured myself a glass of wine, not offering him one. "Half of it is legally mine. That restaurant is my life, Mally. Everything I've worked for." "Everything?" The wine glass shook in my hand. "What about our life? Our marriage? Was that just a convenient cover story?" He reached for something in his jacket. "I need to show you something. If it's another custody agreement. It's from before we met." He slid a worn envelope across the counter. Inside was a photograph of a much younger Ethan holding a baby. Not Oliver. My first son. He died when he was 3 months old. Sudden infant death syndrome. The wine glass slipped from my hand, shattering on the floor. Red spread across the tiles like blood. "Lily was my girlfriend then," he continued. "When she got pregnant with Oliver, I couldn't lose another child. I couldn't walk away. But I couldn't lose you either. So you lied. For years." My voice sounded distant, strange. "You let me plan our future while building a completely different one behind my back. I know it was wrong. But every time I tried to tell you, I remembered holding my dead son, and I just couldn't." The worst part was, I could see it now, the pain behind every deflected conversation about having kids. The panic in his eyes whenever we saw babies in restaurants. I'd attributed it all to him not being ready. "You should have trusted me," I whispered. "I would have understood." "Would you?" He stood up, moving closer. "Would you have married me knowing I had another family? Another child?" "I don't know. The truth hurt more than any lie. But you never gave me the chance to choose. And now?" "Now?" I laughed, a hollow sound. "Now I'm going to sell my half of the restaurant. You can keep your family, Ethan, but I won't let you keep everything else too. Even if it destroys everything I've built." "You destroyed everything when you decided to live a double life." I stepped over the broken glass, leaving red footprints on the floor. "The difference is, I'm being honest about it." He called after me as I walked out, but I didn't turn around. His past tragedy didn't excuse his present betrayal. And yet, as I waited for the elevator, I found myself touching the photograph I'd slipped into my pocket. Wondering how many kinds of grief one heart could hold. The restaurant was quiet after closing time when I walked in through the back door. My key still worked, I hadn't given it back yet. Ethan's mother Margaret sat at the prep counter, exactly where I'd asked to meet her. Her face showed no surprise when I placed the stack of bank statements in front of her. "I assume you know why I'm here," I said. She pushed the papers away without looking at them. "Ethan told me you might come. Did he tell you about the money? The monthly deposits he claimed were going to your medical bills?" Margaret's hands, always so steady when she taught me to make her family's pasta sauce, trembled slightly. What medical bills? The confirmation felt like a punch to the gut, even though I'd expected it. For your heart condition. The one Ethan said required specialized treatment. I haven't been to a doctor in 3 years. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Mally, whatever he told you. He used you. My voice cracked. He used your name to hide the money he was sending to Lily and Oliver. Made me think we were helping family while he built a whole other life. The kitchen door swung open. Ethan stood there, still in his chef's whites. Mom? What are you doing here? Finding out the truth, I said. Something you never had the courage to tell her. Margaret stood up slowly. Is it true? Do I have a grandson? The silence stretched like pulled taffy, thick and suffocating. Finally, Ethan nodded. How could you? Margaret's voice was barely a whisper. After everything your father and I sacrificed for this restaurant, you used our family to cover your lies? I was trying to protect everyone, Ethan said. No. I grabbed my bag. You were protecting yourself. And now you've lost everything, your wife, your mother's trust, and soon, half your restaurant. The restaurant isn't just mine, Ethan said quietly. It's my family's legacy. Then you should have thought of that before using it to fund your double life. Margaret picked up the bank statements with shaking hands. All this time, I thought you were working late to keep the business going. Instead, you were. She stopped, tears falling. I want to meet my grandson. Mom, please. Not through you. She turned to me. Mally, would you take me to meet him? I think we both deserve to know the whole truth. I looked at Ethan, saw the panic in his eyes as his carefully constructed worlds finally collided. Yes, I said. I'll take you tomorrow. As we walked out together, leaving Ethan alone in his empty restaurant, I realized revenge didn't taste like victory. It tasted like ashes and endings, and the bitter truth that some broken things can never be made whole again. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I found myself back at the yellow house. Margaret sat in Lily's living room, bouncing Oliver on her knee while he showed her his favorite picture book. The sight still felt surreal, but somehow right. More tea? Lily asked, appearing from the kitchen. I nodded, watching as she poured. We'd developed an unexpected routine over these past months, weekly visits with Margaret, awkward at first, then gradually easier. Not friendship exactly, but something like understanding. The restaurant sold yesterday, Lily said quietly. Ethan wanted you to know. I set my cup down. To who? Margaret. She mortgaged her house to buy your half. Lily smiled sadly. She says it's staying in the family, just a different way than anyone expected. Oliver squealed with delight as Margaret tickled him, their laughter filling the room. I thought about the photograph in my wallet, the one of Ethan with his first son, and how grief could shape a person's choices in ways that rippled outward, touching everyone around them. He's starting therapy, Lily added. Ethan, I mean. Finally dealing with everything he never processed about losing James. Good. The word came out softer than I expected. That's good. You know what's strange? Lily wrapped her hands around her teacup. I used to envy you. The wife who got the public life, the fancy apartment, the restaurant appearances. Now I realize we were both just getting different pieces of a broken man. Margaret called us over, Oliver demanding we all look at something in his book. As we gathered around, I noticed how the afternoon light made the room glow, warm and golden. This wasn't the ending I'd imagined for my marriage, but maybe it was the beginning of something else, something more honest, if not easier. I'm moving to Seattle, I said suddenly. Got a job offer last week. Lily touched my arm. You don't have to leave because of. I'm not. I smiled, surprising myself with how genuine it felt. I'm leaving because I want to. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone else's life, it's building your own. Later, as I walked to my car, I saw Ethan's Range Rover parked down the street. He was waiting for his scheduled time with Oliver, keeping his distance until I left. Our eyes met briefly through the windshield. He raised his hand in a small wave, and after a moment, I returned it. Some people might call it forgiveness, but it felt more like release, letting go of the anger that had driven me for so long. Making space for whatever came next. As I drove away from the yellow house for the last time, I realized that sometimes the happiest endings aren't about getting even, but about getting free.